Affirmative action is the antidote to white privilege. It monitors the balance, or rather the imbalances, of the white privileged black disadvantaged seesaw. This monitoring goes on theoretically until the seesaw becomes balanced on both ends, which represents equality, with neither side moving up at the expense of the other side. Many of those benefiting from white privilege will go bananas in response to this theory, but never mind, they will go bananas in response to any proposal that actually changes the relative position of white privilege and black disadvantage. But looking at these relative positions is where we have to begin if we are to deal with white privilege. Luckily for all of us, the proper application of affirmative action provides us with a no-fault method of detecting and measuring the extent of white privilege operating in our society. It is a statistical method called underrepresentation. That's a mouthful. Underrepresentation. Underrepresentation is a way of measuring valued outcomes like job promotions within two groups, say blacks and whites, and determining if the differences found can be explained or accounted for in the two groups' different levels of qualifications, such as education and experience. So if you run the numbers and they don't add up, so to speak, then you know that what you're looking at is underrepresentation. With this simplicity and inherent fairness, you would think that white privilege could be recognized and admitted by all Americans, black and white, so that corrective actions could be taken. If you thought that simple admission of white privilege was no big deal, you would be wrong. You would be very wrong. One of the barriers to dismantlement of white privilege is the extreme reluctance of its benefactors, white Americans, to admit that the privilege even exists in this society. Unbelievable as this might sound, the denial of white privilege by those who benefit from him is in itself an exercise of white privilege. It is akin to a parent telling a child, "We will not discuss that subject." The privilege is in the power to control the dialogue. This has lifted the denial of white privilege to a new level, to the level of marginalizing black challengers with a host of accusations that comprise a whole deck of white race cards. The first card in this deck is to accuse the black of playing the race card. Next, they will hit him with being an angry black. Then they will top it off with the ace in the white race card deck, advising the complaining black to get over it. Recognizing and dismantling white privilege requires an end to the game playing by both blacks and whites, with or without race cards. Instead of game playing, let them both consider what they can do to move this country closer to a serious dialogue on the existence of white privilege and how affirmative action can be used to decrease it. This is the way we must bring this country closer to a solution to the American dilemma. This concludes session 4, the last session in this series on affirmative action and white privilege. It is by no means our last word on affirmative action or white privilege. There's a lot to be said on each topic, and it will be said right here on ewemedia.com. Visit us regularly so that you do not miss any of the messages.